Lisa. Welcome to Adventures in Knitting. In these videos, I will guide you on your knitting journey to explore your creativity and interpret your stitches. So let's get started on our next adventure. Please first watch this section of the video as I show you how to make the knit stitch. I will then repeat this section so that you could follow along and do it with me. Hold the needle with the stitches in your left hand and the empty needle in your right hand. Just like casting on, the knit stitch is done in 4 steps. The first 3 steps are the same, only the 4th step is different. Step 1, put the right needle up through the top stitch. Step 2, wrap the yarn around the back needle counterclockwise. Step 3, pull the right needle down through the loop on the left needle and forward. Step 4. This is the step that is different than when you cast on. Now for step 4, slide the stitch off of the left needle. Now do all 4 steps again, each time using the top stitch on your left needle. Step 1, right needle up through the stitch. Step 2, wrap the yarn around the back of the needle. Step 3, pull the right needle down and forward. Step 4, slide the stitch off. Hold the needle with the stitches in your left hand and the empty needle in your right hand. Step 1, put the right needle up through the top stitch. Step 2, wrap the yarn around the back needle counterclockwise. Step 3, pull the right needle down through the loop on the left needle and forward. Step 4, slide the stitch off of the left needle. Step 1, right needle up through the stitch. Step 2, wrap the yarn around the back of the needle. Step 3, pull the right needle down and forward. Step 4, slide the stitch off. When you have knit all of the stitches on your needle, you have knit 1 row. Now put the needle with the stitches on it back in your left hand and the empty needle in your right hand. Pull the yarn down and to the back. Move your tail out of the way if needed. To knit the first stitch of the row, put the needle through the loop that is on the needle. Do not put your needle in the loop below. Make sure you put it in the stitch that is wrapped around the needle. Continue to knit each stitch, doing all 4 steps each time. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, Step 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here are some tips to help you. As your knitting gets longer, have it hang down below your needles so it's out of your way. Again, when you start a new row, pull the yarn down and to the back. Put the needle in the first stitch on the needle. Notice that if you pull the yarn up and over the needle, then you create what looks like an extra stitch to knit. This is how you may accidentally add an extra stitch to your rows. If you stop halfway through the row and someone in your household comes along and plays with your knitting, you may be confused as to which direction you were knitting. First, identify what stitch the working yarn is attached to. The yarn is always attached to the last stitch you knit, and all the stitches below have also been knit. So that means that the needle with the yarn should be in your right hand, so you can continue knitting the stitches on your left needle. Another issue you may have happen is that your stitches come off of your needles. First, take a deep breath. Then pick up your stitches and put them back on either needle, being careful not to let the stitches come undone. Next, check to see where your yarn is. The stitch that the yarn is attached to should be the top stitch on your right needle. If it isn't, move the stitches back to the right needle until you get to that stitch. Then check your stitches to make sure they were put on the needle in the correct direction. The correct way is when the front leg of the stitch is facing to the right, or towards the tip of your needle. The back leg will then be facing to the left, or towards the base of your needle. So this stitch is correct. I'm going to move it out of the way to show you the next stitch. This stitch is backwards. To fix it, take it off of the needle, turn it around, and put it back on in the other direction. Congratulations! You now know how to make the knit stitch.